Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guests here today, well, first of all, we have a special 2-for-1. We've done this probably only about one other time, but we have Gina back on the podcast for her third time, and then we have Helle Trevino on the podcast, which, I mean, everyone's been talking to me about get her on, and, so we finally got her, and, she's really, I mean, Gina obviously needs no introduction. She's been on here for so many times, and then Helle, I mean, she's Wings of Strength 2015 Chicago Pro Champion, 2017 and 2019 Rising Phoenix World Champion, 2019 Tampa Pro Champion. She was third in the last Olympia, so, I mean, she's been in this sport for so long, and she has so much knowledge, but they're both on here to sort of give us an update and talk about, what they've been up to, especially now that they're in that warm California weather. I mean, I don't even want to ask them what the weather's going to be like, but I'm going to have to because I love torturing myself. But most importantly, they're our current guests. Both of you, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes.
Well, I got to ask first of all, because like I said, I love torturing myself. What is the weather like in California today?
It's going to be like 80 degrees this weekend. Today, let's see, I'm going to check the temperatures.
Sunny and warm.
Yeah, I have it here on European temperatures. It's like 26.
So it's 22. That's not right.
It's still colder here than it would be there, even if it was Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's like 80 degrees.
Ryan, make you feel better when I got here. It was actually foggy and cold.
We have different definitions of cold, okay? So, like, yeah, you're 60, that's like streaking weather for me, basically, because I mean, I do that right now, but yeah, it's just ridiculous. But as we get into things, I mean, Helle, you haven't been on the podcast before, so I ask this to every first-time guest. Why don't you give us your backstory on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you, I mean, being one of the most recognizable female bodybuilders on the planet?
Well, I started training already in high school, just kind of like dabbling with it in gym class. And then I got really serious as I was around 16, 17. I got more into went to a gym and went every day. And muscles started popping up pretty quick. And I liked it. And I love working out. I like the look. And, people were starting to ask me if I was going to do some competitions or something. And I was like, what is that? And I kind of got drawn into that world, through friends that I got in the gym and stuff. And I just loved it from the beginning, the lifestyle, just the training, being able to feel good in your own skin and building a sculpture, for me, it's a sport, but it's also an art form. And I love the look. I love to look this way. I love to feel this way. I love to feel strong mentally and physically. And I mean, challenging yourself is vital, is growth. And no matter if you challenge yourself in, whatever job you have or relationship or goals or whatever in your life, I mean, that's how you grow. That's by giving yourself challenges and sticking to it. And it makes you feel real strong when you challenge yourself and keep setting higher goals. And that's, how I got started. I started with okay, let me get in a little bit better shape. Let me try and do my first show. And then that was fun. And let me try and do the next show. And you kind of step up from the little local show and you get better and better. I mean, did I know I was going to be a pro and be one of the best in the world? No, but it was a dream. I mean, I would read all the Flex magazines, 20 years old and hope it could be me one day. And now it is me one day, so I feel very blessed.
That's awesome. And you're originally from Denmark, and I've always wanted to go there. I have a lot of Norwegian blood myself, so I've always wanted to go and visit, Scandinavia because I hear it's just so beautiful. But how old were you when you moved to the United States?
I was mid-30s.
What is one thing that you enjoy the most about the U.S. as opposed? I guess probably the weather, obviously being in L.A. as opposed to what it's like probably in Denmark right now. But what is one thing that you enjoy the most about living in the U.S.?
I would say for this area, now I haven't tried to live anywhere else in the U.S., but this area, LA, Venice, this is the beach vibe. I love how laid back it is, and people are really nice. We were just talking about it. We went for our power walk, morning cardio at the beach, 90 minutes, and it felt like 45 minutes because it's beautiful. You walk at the beach, the sun is warm, you're in your tank top and shorts and just enjoying it. And we finished off with a coffee at the coffee shop. And as we're sitting there, this older gentleman starts talking to us about, oh, you probably do this like all day and blah, blah, blah. And we spark up a conversation. And it's happened to us so many times that they just start talking to you. And I really like it. It's like, you don't have to sit at a coffee shop. You can go for a walk or whatever, and somebody is like, "Hey, you look great," and "Oh, you work out," and all of a sudden you have a conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
there's definitely a friendly vibe here.
people are very friendly. Like, also yesterday, the guy that was like, "Hey, have a nice day," enjoy your weekend. You don't know the person, but it's nice to have like people take the time to say something nice to the next person. And that's what I really love about this area. People are generally very positive and very open minded, and yeah, it's a cool vibe.
Which is good to hear because I mean, LA sometimes always seems to get a bad rap, but it's mainly from people like me who just aren't living there. So then we're just jealous, and then we're like, "Oh, don't go to LA," all that. But that's great. But this is for both of you. I mean, like you said, you're walking out in public and stuff. Which I mean, one of the good things about being up here in Minnesota is that you can kind of put on some weight in the winter because you're going to be in sweaters for 6 months out of the year. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what you look like. No one's really going to
Well,
see
I'm
it.
from Denmark, so I know how it is.
Yeah, I know. Being from Denmark, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. But what has this whole journey been like for both of you? Because I've asked Gina this before, but I haven't asked her, with Helle, what's that like getting all that attention that you get, like, especially dressed the way that you are right now, if you're to walk out in public? Because like I tell all of my guests, it's like whenever female bodybuilders go out in public, they're sort of like mini celebrities because people just aren't used to seeing that normally. So then it's kind of just like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So how have you both sort of adapted to that? And especially being out in, California where, you're not going to really be able to hide. And if you wear a sweater out there, at 80 degrees, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you use the word hide because for us, I think our physiques are definitely an expression of who we are internally. It's just not a package on the outside. It takes so much dedication, so much energy, spirit, love of the sport to produce what we do. And yes, we're unique. We've actually talked about that, and the attention we get is awesome because it sheds light on, hey, we can be different. We're still women, and it's okay for women to be really strong and muscular and to walk around and flex their biceps. Contrary to what society says that we should or shouldn't do. So it's empowering and it's awesome because we get to reach out to other women and say, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to be, whatever you want to be, you can be it, you can do it. So that aspect of it just makes my day. I'm living my dream. I'm sure Helle would say the same thing. I get to do what I
was
love
sitting here nodding.
every single day. I get to do, I love what I do, and people want to watch it. I mean, how much better does it get? And we get to motivate and inspire people, and it's an incredible thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said exactly the same. Like, I think it's. I definitely feel like we're front runners for females, like in terms of like how we look. That we chose to look a different way. That is not. It's not as sociably accepted yet for women to have muscles as it is for men, and I would like it to be that way. That it's like we see ourselves as not as like black or Asian or Persian or muscular or skinny. It's just I see the body is our house. We are all human beings. We should all have the freedom to choose whatever that we want to do with our lives, because what we know of, we only have one life. Maybe there's more, but we don't know that. So we got to take advantage of the one we have, and just, I mean, I live my life. I mean, I've been blessed to be able to live my life like how I want. Like I've been going for my dreams. I've just always, I guess, also worked for my dreams. Yeah, I've had sucky jobs sometimes. It's like, okay, I got to do this to accumulate some money so I can go and pursue that dream. But I've always believed in my dreams. And I think that's a big strength. And I think that's also it's also a manifestation. bodies that we kind of give other women hope that they can be however they want. I mean, not just muscular, of course, muscular in particular, because that's what we represent, but I just want everybody, whether it's women or men, look however you want, do with your life whatever you feel makes you happy. Because if you don't make you happy, like who's going to make you happy? And I feel bad for people that feel like they have to live their life according to what the family says or what the friend says or what is socially acceptable. It's like she said also, like we really want to inspire and motivate, and it's a blessing to be able to touch somebody else's life.
Yeah, and that's amazing and just inspiring people. And, I always said if I ever looked like that, I would be flexing all the time. Even when I walked into a bar, I don't even know if I would be going tank tops everywhere I went. I don't care. Even in 10 degrees right now, if I look like that, are you kidding me? I'd be snow throwing and shoveling and in shorts and, like a tank top, really. So, yeah, that's awesome. But hell, I mean, coming from Denmark, where I've had actually, so you're actually my first guest from Denmark, but I've had every other guest from all the other 3 Scandinavian countries of, Norway, Sweden, and Finland on. They seem to be very conservative countries. So what's their opinion on women with muscle as opposed to the US? Because from the answers that I've got from other guests from Scandinavian countries, it's a little bit more accepting here than it is over there.
I have a little correction to my name. It's Helle.
Helen. Okay.
Hella good.
Hella good. Okay.
Yeah. I just feel like it's bigger over here. I mean, the country I'm from is like 5 million people. So it's kind of like compared to the US, 350 million people, it's a village.
Minnesota is 5 million people, so it's basically like my state, compared to your country. Yeah.
So I feel like when you're a small community, often it's kind of like you got to fit in. You shouldn't be like too different. I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like it's a little divided over there. I guess it's also like, are you in the fitness community or are you not? Because I would say for the fitness community, I mean, I get a lot of props from fellow Danes, like on Instagram and stuff. I get messages and comments, even though I haven't lived there for many years. They still, acknowledge my accomplishments, and they DM me and comment and like and stuff. And so I definitely still feel like I have the support of the Danish people. But of course, it's more like, people in the fitness industry that kind of, they follow the sport and they have a great respect of me kind of getting out of the pond. Like you say, you can be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond, and it takes courage. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who are sitting with a dream. Can I make it? Can I leave my country, my family, my friends, my good job, my apartment, and go to America and make a life for me there, not knowing anyone, not having a network? It's not easy. Like, I just came with my suitcase and was hoping for a life, and you don't know anyone. You can't call mom. You can't call a friend. If something breaks down, at home, you always know somebody who knows somebody. When something breaks down here, you have to get the money out every time. It's like you just have no network. Like,
Oh yeah, driving in the snow. I mean, I have a separate set of money stashed away for just in case I ever like slide on ice or anything like that, and I get into like a little bender or anything like that. So yeah, you always got to have the money ready, whatever something happens. But Gina, I mean, the last time we talked, I think it was like July or June-ish, and it was a while back. But I remember since I obviously follow you on Instagram. I mean, you had to go to the hospital. What was that all about? Because I think you were getting ready. Were you getting ready to do another competition, or were you in your off season? But then something happened.
It was just immediately after. So just kind of, our bodies go through a lot of physiological stress through prep. And a lot of us, I think, for 2020 preps were really long because the season kept getting extended and shows canceled and rescheduled and pushed back. So, I had dieted, started February. I think I took off maybe 4 to 5 weeks when COVID kind of emerged and everything got canceled. And then the shows got rescheduled and I went back on prep. So by the time I did my shows in October, I'd been prepping quite a long time. And it was a pretty hardcore diet. What we need to do to get lean. Um, and immediately after the shows, I did what we typically do, and we eat. And for me, my go-to sugar. I can pass up the burger and the fries and the pizza, but I can't pass up the chocolate chip cookies. I basically just overdid it, and my body didn't like it, so it's just kind of had a not a great response to an overwhelming amount of sugar. So it laid me up for a bit, but I'm back to 100%, feeling great. Training's right back where it needs to be. I think it was a bit of a forced rest. My body said, "Hey, slow down, or I'm gonna kill you." So I listened. So I'm much better. Thanks for asking.
Well, it's great that you listen to that because, I mean, yeah, I've like I told you before, I've had nights too where all of a sudden you have too much and then you don't sleep and then your stomach basically feels like you're about to explode and then you're like, oh God, this is gonna be a rough day. But I just find it fascinating, how did you two meet? What show did you guys meet at, and how did this, friendship sort of develop? Because I always talk about with my guests with female bodybuilding, it seems to be that one sport where everyone does seem to get along and everyone cares about each other, which is so great because I really think it helps the individuals out so much. Just having that camaraderie and just knowing that, you guys have all suffered through the same preps and you guys have all, done stuff that the normal public would never be able to do. What is that like for you to have those relationships, and how did you guys sort of develop that bond?
You want to answer that, or
I'll let you answer that.
all right? So we met. I guess it was 2019 Tampa Pro where Helle won. I did it as an amateur, and I think I placed second in bodybuilding that year. So backstage, I was still waiting to do finals. Helle had already come off and was standing there with her crown and her sword, and I'm just at that point, little bodybuilder groupie. Can I have a picture, please? So we got a picture together, talked a little bit, and we started corresponding on Instagram after that, here and there. And then this past year, 2020, when she came back for New York Pro, which was in Tampa, so a lot of the shows, Olympia included, they brought to Florida because Florida, well, we just kind of ignore COVID. So
it's like a different world over there.
That's right, So she was back in town for the New York Pro, and I saw her again at the show, and I think I offered to hook her up with some training. I'm like, hey, do you need to get to a gym?
I'll drive you. I
yeah.
have a cool gym. We can get a workout in together if you like.
Yep. So I went and kidnapped her, took her to the gym, gave her a place to get cleaned up, and then drove her in the worst torrential, oh my God, it was like hurricane force rain to the airport. So I'm like, oh my God, I got the world champion in my car. I can't freaking see, and I got to get her to the airport so she doesn't miss her flight.
Hey, at least if you crash, you're gonna make the newspaper. Basically, that's what my dad always says. If you ever have someone famous with you, basically.
I took out the world champion, So yeah, that was kind of, I think, what kind of kicked it off. After that, we really started talking more frequently. And then most recently, she had, Rising Phoenix in Olympia. And I said, I will be your assistant. Whatever you need, I will go and get it. If you need a cheeseburger at 3 a.m., I'm your girl. So, because I know what it's like being at competitions and being by yourself and not having somebody there to be a second set of hands, a second pair of eyes. So offered to do that. Unfortunately, Rising Phoenix, I had to cancel because of COVID. But Olympia, we definitely did that. And then she ages ago invited me out to stay. So I'm like, all right, well, now you got to deal with me. I'm here. So.
Well, I like the camaraderie we have in women's bodybuilding. Like, I really feel like our division is very unique. We all talk and we all friends, and I love meeting up with my fellow competitors and athletes, friends, colleagues, and we do. I've met up with a lot of the girls, like, because it's also like this is the Mecca, like everybody wants to come to Venice, training goals and stuff. So I'm always like, welcome, just come on over, we'll train, it's also like, spending time with another female bodybuilder is like, we're so alike. We have the same goals. We eat the same food. We we like the same type of body, and we have the same kind of mindset. We understand each other. We've gone through a lot of really mentally challenging preps, and we can talk about that and share funny stories or share experiences. I mean, if you gotta find anyone that's like more like you, it would be a colleague. Like
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
they understand. She understands. If I say, "Yeah, I had a really tough time on prep, man, it was a near death experience," she knows what I mean. Like she knows. It's not like, yeah, 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 sure.
Yeah, been there, done
She's
that.
she's been there. So I think the camaraderie we have in this division is awesome.
It's incredible. I got to say, being a new pro, everyone was welcoming. It's like, when they say welcome to the IFBB, in the family, it is. It's been absolutely incredible. And I haven't met anybody that hasn't been just friendly and just, and people I used to idolize. This is the physique I emulate. I tell her I'm always chasing her, forever chasing. Probably never freaking.
I was gonna say, good luck, Gina. No offense.
But so yeah, it's really cool to make those relationships, and people that you have so much in common with and can relate to. And I mean, this is, for both of us, and I'm sure for a lot of other pros, this is our world. This is how we exist. This is what we do day in, day out. We are bodybuilders. That's what
It's our passion.
what Gina is. What's what Helle is, first and foremost. That's who I am. Being able to spend time with like souls, it's great. It's energizing.
Well, absolutely. And what was that like for both of you? Like the first time that you went to Gold's Gym, because like you said, that's the mecca, and I can compare that to me going to like pitching at Wrigley Field or Fenway Park. But what was that like when you first walked in there and just realizing that you're in the place where all these bodybuilders have trained, and it's really one of the starts of bodybuilding. And I mean, it's just the most important gym out there. I mean, everyone that's bodybuilds knows what Gold's Gym in Venice Beach is.
The first time I went to Goals, I so looked like a tourist. I was just like looking at the walls, like all the greats, I mean, it's like a wall of fame. They have all the Olympians, and they have every wall is decorated with photos of all the legends. So the first time I think, before I even started my workout, I just walked around and glanced and like just drooled over the amazing physiques, and they had like a big old screen with bodybuilding, like the Olympia videos running, and I was like, wow, this is the shit. And then of course you see like, oh, isn't that Dexter Jackson over there? And you're like, do I dare go over there and get a photo? So yeah, the first time, that was like way even before I moved here. It was just to, when I was over here for competitions, to visit and to experience Goals. I mean, Goals is like, it's not just a gym, it's an experience. So now it's closed, but we're actually looking forward to Friday because it's been closed basically all year. And on Friday, tomorrow, they're opening.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big day tomorrow.
Yeah, we're excited. It's gonna be cool. So it'll be my first time there. So
Oh wow.
I'll get to play the tourist deal tomorrow.
Like California is like the opposite of Florida. Everything's closed. Everything's closed. Like it's even tracking down a cup of coffee can be hard.
Hey, well, up here we've been shut down since November, and we're going until February, I think, with the gyms again. So it's been a journey in and of itself. But what was both your preps like during this COVID? Because I mean, this has just been such a fascinating time, especially for bodybuilding, because gyms have been shut down. I mean, we've had people that, have had to work out from home, and, you look online and everything's overpriced. We've had dumbbells that are going for, like 4 times what they were normally going for. And it's just been a fascinating time. How did this virus impact both you guys when it came to preps? Because like Gina said, some people that I've had on have had preps like that are like 11 months long. And it's like, yeah, good luck maintaining that, and good luck, really coming out of this positively. Because we've had people that have, lost a lot of muscle, and it's just been trying for so many people.
Well, now I have the connections here. So I have people to call. I have people I know that own gyms. So I've been really fortunate. I have one friend who had a gym that was closed down, but he would give me the door code, and he'd be like, I know you're prepping for the O. You can come anytime you want, and I could just come there anytime I wanted. So I've been fortunate. I mean, I had to switch a couple of times before I ended up there, but I would say like five different gyms because they kept shutting down, or get shut down, but like somebody is ratting them out, and then they, so definitely, I mean, it was that was times it was challenging because when you don't have a gym and everything's closed, and me and my training partner was kind of like, who are we gonna call? Like, who do you have in your phone? Who do you have in your phone? So it's just basically been like really relying on the network. But I've been training like all through the COVID. Like I've been blessed to have friends that hook me up, and so I haven't really had any issues there with difficulties with the prep. And I have a beautiful beach out here, so I can always go walk and do like a power walk or a jog anytime we don't have snow and glaciers. Rub it in, rub it in.
Hey, I will say though, the one positive about living up here is that I will never have to experience an earthquake my entire life. That's the only thing that I say. The only thing we got to worry up with here is blizzards and tornadoes. Otherwise, it's smooth sailing here. But yeah, I've never experienced one in my life, so that's something. But other than that, yeah, you guys win 10 times out of 10 when it comes to anything weather-wise. I mean, even your summers are better than ours because it gets really really hot here. So it's just crazy. But I mean, especially with all this, yeah, Gina, I was gonna say, yeah, Gina, what was your prep like? Because I don't even know if because I asked you this, but it was right before your show. So how did your whole prep overall go during this COVID?
I didn't have everything I needed, but you learn how to be very creative and make it work. So I didn't really miss a beat through the lockdown. And Florida was probably locked down the least length of time out of every place. I think we were closed for 4 or 5 weeks. So it really wasn't a huge impact there. The fact that the season got elongated and shows pushed back actually worked to my advantage. If Chicago was in July like it initially was going to be, I don't know that I'd be a pro sitting here right now. I just, when I started my prep in February, I was not ready. I'd come off of nationals in late November, very brief off season, and my head was just like, as much as I wanted to do it and it was time to go, my head was just like not in it. So that reprieve was huge for me. It definitely worked to my advantage. And as this season's starting to get fired up and the schedules are coming out, we're all kind of holding our breath and crossing our fingers that we get another great season. Got to give huge shout out to the promoters, Wings of Strength, Jake Wood, for still making bodybuilding happen last year. I mean, practically all other sports shut down.
Yeah.
But just huge.
We're blessed.
We're blessed. Shows. They still gave us a place to do what we do. And I'm sure that wasn't at a financial gain to them. They had limited capacity for seating. They couldn't get as many people in. They couldn't get vendors in. I'm sure some of the shows, not as many athletes showed up to because a lot of athletes couldn't train. So we wouldn't be able to do what we do and take stages if we didn't have promoters that went above and beyond. So,
I mean, this sport is really, I feel like it's really driven my passion. No matter if it's a promoter putting on a show or the judges or the athletes, like people you meet in this sport, they have a passion for it. Like a sincere passion that it's like, I mean, I've heard promoters say, it's okay, we don't make money right now. We just want to put on the show and, make sure we continue the sport and then, they hope for a better next year. And you want to support that. They support us. We want to support them. Like it's just, it's beautiful when it's not just all about money. Of course, we all want to make a buck, but it's also nice that people are really, having a passion and wanting to support another. And I feel like teamwork you're always stronger as when you stand alone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was gonna say, I was only looking over because we had I can only describe as a whiteout, where if anyone knows what that is, it's when the snow is falling so hard and the wind is blowing so hard that you can't see within like 5 feet in front of you. So that's why I was looking out, because I was like, oh my God, that's incredible.
I'm over here.
Yeah, it lasted for like 20 seconds and I was like, wow, this is weird. But yeah, that's awesome that, you guys were still able to, do your preps and stuff, because for all the positive, prep stories that I've heard during this, there's been some negative ones too. But Helle, I ask this question for every new guest that's on the podcast, because I love to talk genetics on this podcast, because, I always say, everyone has that myth, and especially when they're like on Instagram, because everyone's on social media, where it's, oh my God, I want her arms, I want his abs, I want their back. People don't realize that you can only be the best version of yourself, because, it's just, I don't know how many times I have to shake people down and be like, you don't know how that person got to that look. A lot of people are just genetic freaks, but whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just lags behind, that they have to train to oblivion to get them to catch up. Gina's heard this before, but for me, my back was the one thing that really took off, because I had jobs, all throughout colleges where, I would lift and load boxes into trucks, and you got a nice back, you quit. But being 6'3", my legs and my lower body are so shot that I've always said I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they wouldn't gain an ounce. Don't even get me started on calves. That's the number one genetic thing. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started in this sport?
Legs, for sure. I mean, I always had great quads. Even before I started working out, I had great quads. I've been horse riding for 10 years. I've done track and field, martial arts. I was a swimming champion in high school. I mean, I've always been in sports, like my whole life. Like I started with gymnastics when I was 3. And my parents always put me in a lot of sports. So I've always been doing like kind of everything. Short putting at some point, and ballroom dancing, and I mean, I've done a lot of different. I was a Girl Scout, so I've always been active, like always. I mean, I think with I think when you're talking about genetics and background work, I think it all plays around a role. Like the background you had growing up, like were you totally sedentary, or did you do sports from an early age? I do think muscles they kind of get primed. They kind of have like when you talk about muscle memory, um, and I mean, of course, genetics. What you're born with. Like often, I mean, my mom had great legs, great calves. I got that. Uh, and of course, also work ethics. Like I mean, I've seen so many times a hard worker can beat a genetic freak if they don't work hard. But of course, if you're a genetic freak, you work hard, you have a good background. You got to take it all. So it's really about having a little bit of everything.
We've heard so many times on this podcast where it's either like gymnasts or swimmers. I mean, they have that nice background where it really is easy for them to adjust and to get into the sport. But yeah, it's just, I love to ask that question, because it really just shows that, everyone's body's different. I mean, you're not going to look just like someone else just from, working out the same way that they do, which is a message that I think a lot of people need to hear, because so many people fall into these fads where they're like, oh, I'll just do exactly what they do, and I'll end up looking just like them. And it's like, no, that's
No,
not how it works.
it's different. I mean, I think Gina's story is also amazing. Like, I mean, I've been doing sports all my life. I started 3 years old. I was thrown into gymnastics, and I mean, by 10, I was a Girl Scout. I was horse riding. I was in gymnastics. I was in swimming in school. I mean, so many things. Like I remember like my whole week was like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday was swimming, horse riding was Tuesday and Thursday, like, it's still my life sport. Gina started bodybuilding like 5 years ago. Like how can you look like that and you worked out 5 years only? So, I mean, people shouldn't get discouraged just because I've been into it all my life. You can start at any age. You can, I mean, she's a pro and she's only worked out 5 years. I mean, she's also like freaking 4 foot something. so, so you know,
Yeah,
Fun.
I love having the taller guests on because being 6'3", I always talk to them about tall people problems when it comes to working out because, yeah, some people don't realize that some of these guests that I have on, like Gina, are on the shorter side. But, hey, everyone has their own problems. Short people have problems working out too. Tall people have problems working out.
Not an advantage except when you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, you're not gonna be playing in the NBA or anything like that if you're 5 feet tall. But yeah, I mean, yeah, bodybuilding, yeah, it's the one sport where I've always found that fascinating. But yeah, and one thing that I wanted to ask both of you, especially, is I mean, the Olympia's finally doing bodybuilding again. I mean, it was the first time that it's done it in such a long period of time. What was your reactions like when you first heard it? Was it all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I gotta ramp up my training now because obviously you couldn't really compete in the Olympia before then? But what was the overall reaction like from both of you when the moment that they announced, oh hey, we're gonna have bodybuilding back at the Olympia?
For me, I mean, goal number one was always pro card. Goal number two was Olympia stage. And being a bodybuilder and being in that division that fits and suits me very well. Yes, like Helle said, I'm 5, 6 years in, and I've put on a lot of mass. My body likes to build muscle, and I have very dense, a dense, thick look. So bodybuilding really suits me well. So it's always been the thought, well, I guess I'll have to kind of refine, downsize, go back to women's physique if I'm going to ever make that Olympia stage, because it wasn't an option for us as bodybuilders anymore. And that was heartbreaking. It's bodybuilding, and we're the biggest division there is. We're where it started and when it first came to be. So the day they announced it, that women's bodybuilding was back in the Olympia, it was like Christmas in July. It made my day. And to someone like Helle, that's a world champion, to not have had that opportunity, so I can only imagine what that meant for her.
I mean, I've been in the Olympia 3 times before, and when it got announced it was over, it was just very disappointing. It's like you feel like you got put out with the garbage, like very disappointing and very like feeling not appreciated, I mean, as far as the sport, like, I mean, I'm a bodybuilder. Like, I don't give a if there's a show or there's not a show. I'm gonna work out regardless. And
You can always just like put a show on the beach too when you're walking in the street or whatever, and just be like, hey everyone, check this out. You'll always have an audience.
I actually did that one time. I went to the beach with my 8x10 autographed photos, and I just posed in a bikini, and I sold photos like crazy. I was at some point years ago. I was a poor immigrant. I needed money. You gotta do what you gotta do. So I had a little booth there. But anyways, I mean, I was also asked the question, "Are you gonna downsize to physique now?" And I was like, "No, like I'm a bodybuilder. Like this is what I love to do. I worked hard for this body. I'm not going to lose 10, 20, 30 pounds. Hell no, I work for those pounds. And I love looking the way I look. I mean, I'm going to look like this regardless if there's a show or not. But at the same time, I do love to compete. I do love to challenge myself. And you don't challenge yourself the same way when you're not competing. Like off season, I mean, you work out and you eat, but it's a whole different thing to all of a sudden have to take your body to 3% body fat and be on a stage being watched by thousands of people in a tiny bikini, having your body actually compared to other people and criticized. So it's definitely a challenge, and I love the challenge. And having the biggest show in the world kind of discarding us was very discouraging. And I've always been an athlete that really loved to be out there with my fans and to promote the sport and trying to be a good role model. And I felt like the platform all of a sudden got very small. It was like after we got taken out of the Olympia, no one was talking about it. It was almost like we were kind of unpopular at some point. And I was like, damn, man. You're kind of like, that the outsider, the outsiders can't sit in the room with the others. But then Wings of Strength came, and they did a huge promote. Everything is about promotion. It's like if you have a soda, no one knows you have the soda. You want to sell it, but you're not promoting it. How's it gonna go? And that's what happened with female bodybuilding. It wasn't being promoted. That was the problem. And easy fix. Let's take it out, and we'll have physique, and that's the new bodybuilding, and we forget about them. The problem was people didn't want to forget about them because there's a lot of fans for women's bodybuilding. Like people love bodybuilding. It's like the most hardcore. And Jake is one who had a passion for the sport. He has a team of people that had a passion. So he made the Rising Phoenix World Championships instead of the Olympia. So that was the new big one. So I didn't feel a big, what can you say, sacrifice, or I didn't feel it was that bad because he revamped the sport and I was part of revamping the sport. So I kind of saw a new opportunity that, like, wow, this is really, I could see how it was progressing everything. Just we were getting more popular. He had, he made like an ambassador team. So every year there's new ambassadors that he will take around to the show and invite and have to work the booth and do a meet and greet with the fans. And he does so many things promotional wise. Also they have a Wings of Strength Instagram page where they do like highlights of the athletes and show their training and do features and show coverage and stuff. They do now more than ever. So this year they did the pay-per-view, but they actually had pay-per-view at the other Rising Phoenixes too. I think that's a great addition to really get it out to the world because there are people, I mean, not just during the COVID, but there are people that they don't have the means to go all the way to the States from Europe or China or India or whatever to watch a show and spend thousands of dollars. So I think that's really great to get the sport out that way. But with the Olympia being back, of course, it was like a victory for the sport. That's how I felt it. Like I was I was happy with what we had before. Of course, my hope was eventually we would get back to the Olympia and the Arnold, and because I feel like we should be at every show. Like I mean, this is a great division. Like people want to watch us. So I really felt it was a huge step in the right direction for the sport. And of course, I was very happy to step on stage at the Olympia. But I'm just as happy stepping on stage on the Rising Phoenix. I mean, now I'm also the two-time Rising Phoenix champ. So I mean, I'm definitely gonna keep up defending my title, and the Olympia is a new opportunity. So we're blessed.
And how did this Olympia differ from the other ones that you competed in? Because I mean, there was so much stuff going on with COVID, and then Iris, wasn't competing in it. She announced that, and I remember that was really everyone's like, okay, all bets are off now. It's gonna, we're gonna see who's the new champion now. But what was your experience like in this Olympia as opposed to the other ones that you've done?
It was just it was just smaller. I mean, they did a great job. Like everything was gliding, everything was very professional. They held a time schedule. They had very professional expediters backstage that make sure exactly we were at where we needed to be. They would kind of guide us through, from the dressing rooms. We have like fitting rooms where we can like lay and relax and do our makeup or whatever. And then we were kind of guided into the pump up room. They had built up a small gym when it was time for that because there will be other divisions in between and they can't have everybody at the same time. Then we would get in there, then they would guide us again and say, okay, now we got to form a line and get up close to the stage. And we knew like every like minute of everything, we knew what to do, what was going to happen. And the stage show was amazing. Like the whole setup was very professional. I loved the speeches. Like Jake gave a very emotional speak. Also, just he wanted to put it on from his heart. It hadn't been easy. First, it was announced to be in Vegas, and then it was moved to Orlando, and the Rising Phoenix was supposed to be in Phoenix, and then they moved to Vegas, and then they moved back to Phoenix. So um, it has not been easy with the planning, and they still made it happen. And I think they did a great job. But it was just as professional and just as great as all the other years. It was like I'm happy to see you again feeling. It was just a little bit smaller. I mean, of course, it was a lot smaller. I mean, for the audience, I don't know if I mean, I think through a weekend there in the Olympia, I don't know, it must be maybe 100,000 people. I don't know, but I mean, there was no expo this year, which I don't go to anyway when I'm an athlete. Like if I go as a spectator, I'll go roam around. But there was limited seating. I think it was 3,000 people. It was full though. I mean, the tickets were sold out. Like I had people hustling for tickets. So, but it was a cool experience.
That's great. And this is a question for both of you because I've had, all divisions on, whether it's bikini, figure, physique, or bodybuilding. A lot of them say that, the divisions are getting, you got to be a little bit more harder and you got to be a little bit more bigger because, there's always been the thing where like figure girls now were basically physique girls, like 10 years ago. And it seems that every division is, getting bigger and harder. Do you think that that's also going along with bodybuilding too? Where do you think the future of this division is going at? Do you think it's going for a little bit more of a harder look or do you think it's maybe softening up a little bit? Where would you see this coming at in the future years?
I think it's hard to stop progress, and this is like in any sport. You can't say suddenly, "Oh, you guys are running a little too fast. You need to take it down a notch because it's just not natural to be running that fast." you know Everything gets better. Our food that we eat, the training methods, the training techniques. I'm training um, totally different now than when I started working out. It's just the techniques are just so much more advanced, and the supplementation is so much more advanced. I mean, back then we could get a protein powder and it would be lumpy and taste like, and you were almost like throwing up in the sink. Like you couldn't really get a lot of things like vitamins, creatine, bad protein powder. Nowadays, like I mean, you can get anything like from getting a better sleep and recovery to uh, you know fat burners that are like with stimulants, without stimulants for the night, and I mean all kind of peptides, and I mean it's crazy how that industry has developed. So of course, people are gonna like everything's gonna progress, just like science, and look at cell phones, like how I mean,
I have an uncle that still uses like a 2005 cell phone. And I was like, where he can't even text on it. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And then I look at mine and I'm like, I have more technology on this than the people that went to the moon had on their entire ship.
and probably like 25 years ago they didn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I was a child, it was like, dude, dude.
Or they had the ones that were in the cars that was like the big deal, which showed if you were like really rich, if you had one
Oh,
of
they
those
were like
those
huge.
big ones, those block phones, yeah, that you'd have to call from a
Had
car
one of
basically.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
had one of those big blocks.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, progress. Uh, you can't dismiss like time and progress, and I don't think it should. But I think they need to keep it in the right direction. I don't feel like there's a limit to size as long as it looks good.
Yep.
As long as you look feminine and you look like a female with muscle,
Get as big as you
I'm
can
good.
get.
Get as big as you want. It's all about. I feel like for the women, I mean, in pro sports, there's a certain supplementation with other things, and as long as you keep that in measures and you look like a woman, you look feminine, um, I don't see a problem with it. Just I don't like when facial features start looking masculine, and you're like kind of like, is that a tranny or not? I mean, there's been some examples, I
Yes.
mean, there's a lot of beautiful girls, but there's also some that take it a step too far. And I think that's what we got to focus on, like, you know, um, just keeping it on track that this is women's bodybuilding. Um, this is women who loves muscle, and we got to look like that. And so however, if you're a big girl, I mean, I've always built muscle easily. She builds muscle easily. I don't see that. Oh, we got to downsize to make it look more feminine. I mean, it doesn't necessarily look more feminine. I mean, you can have a screwed up face and still be small.
Right, right.
So
Yeah,
I'm just being honest. I mean, I love being a woman. I love looking like a woman. I love nails and hair and makeup and all that stuff. That hasn't changed. My beauty ideal is just with muscles. And as I always say, there's more types of beauty and nothing is wrong. Like some people like skinny, some people like very big, voluptuous women, and some people like muscular women, or you can say men, and that like body types, and we should just be all accepting of each other's body types and whatever we like, or whatever, however we are, creative.
I totally agree. I think a sport as it progresses, I mean, women and men. I mean, obviously, men have gotten larger and larger with the science we have now and supplementation ability we have now. Um, you put any of our Olympian open men's bodybuilders up against Arnold today, it's an entirely different physique, entirely different look. And that's why men's. I think part of the reason they brought back classic is to still kind of have there. It's a new breed of bodybuilders for men. Um, and in the same light, I think women, we're going to keep progressing. We're going to keep getting larger with more science. And that's the natural progression, I think, of the sport. So, like Hella said, we have to maintain the femininity in it. I don't think personally there's anything more beautiful than a muscular woman. That to me is the epitome of beauty. Um, so, and I think the people that support the sport and the fans of the sport, they want to see that as well. They want to see pretty muscle, right? I mean, who doesn't want to look at something beautiful? Um, so, as competitors, I think we have a responsibility to help ensure that our sport's longevity, we keep it pretty, you know, um, and we're accessible. We talk to our fans. We're human. So and I think the women in general have done a really good job of doing that. And kudos to my fellow bodybuilders for and Jake. Jake couldn't have brought back something that wasn't pretty to bring back, And I think we all got the message. We figured out where it went wrong, and we've collectively, as a community, sisterhood, have done what we needed to do. And to me, it's sky's the limit now. I think women's bodybuilding is seeing a resurgence that it's never seen before. And it's so exciting for me as a newbie, a new pro, to be in this right now because it's taken off. Every dream I've ever had, it's I can get to it now because women's bodybuilding's back, and and we ain't going nowhere now. We're here to stay.
Yeah, that's awesome. And two of the final questions that I ask, I ask this every time a guest is on, and this goes for both of you as well. I mean, if someone were to walk up to both of you and say, we made the decision, each of you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would each like to see changed?
For me, um, I like to change people's judgment. Like, when you see something that is different, a lot of people, some people have the nice reaction that I like, of like curiosity. Oh wow, what brought you to look like that? Like, oh wow, that's amazing. Like, I like when people are enthusiastic. I mean, I can see something completely different myself. Like the sport of curling is like amazing to me, that you have like basically like a scrubber, and you make that ball or whatever it is move on ice. That's like, to me, it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Well,
You know,
I remember watching. They did an Olympic coverage of the curlers because the curlers are from Minnesota for the U.S. team, and they went on their training routine, and their training was basically eating McDonald's and sitting around and then just working on their curling skills. So they have the life for athletes where they can still eat junk food all the time and still be in shape. So the moment you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, those lucky. Yeah.
I mean, I would say judgment. Like, I think us human beings, not just in this sport, but just in general, we're so quick on judging each other. Like, oh, what are they doing? Or why are they doing like that? You don't even know the people. You don't even know the background. You don't know what they went through. I think with if everybody tried to be a little bit more open minded and a little bit more understanding, showing more tolerance, patience, and just less judgment, I think the world would be very different. And that's something I would like to be like. I mean, that's what I hope also with my role in the sport and as an ambassador and as a role model, to just get people to be a little bit more relaxed, say, hey, I chose to look like that. If you have a dream, go for it, just let's just all accept each other you know, for who we are and accept the choices we've made, how we want to live our lives. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of along the same lines, tolerance. For instance, athletes in their postings on Instagram, some athletes are very comfortable posting their off-season pics. Some aren't. And there's kind of some picking at the ones that aren't. That they're not showing their real selves, or not being transparent. But what it comes down to is we're all human. And if you're not comfortable showing your off-season fluff, then so be it. Don't show it. Do what makes you feel good, what makes you happy. And I think that it's not for anyone else to say whether or not it's right or wrong. Just acceptance, tolerance, and the good stuff. So maybe you're showing more photo shoot pics during your off season, with inspirational messages, whatever it is. As long as it's positive and you feel good about it, then so be it. Because I'm one. I'll first right up say I don't post as much of what I look like in off season. Yeah, that's not where I'm comfortable with my look as much. So does it mean I post less or I'm not transparent? No, because I'll straight up tell you I'm not going to show that just yet.
People are so critical on social media. Like it's like.
Oh my God! I mean, and there's no way in hell I would post a shirtless photo right now that I've gained my 10 to 15 COVID pounds. There's no way you're seeing that. But I gotta say though, through doing this podcast, I have just learned so much about, especially what bodybuilders go through when it comes to messages and stuff, and just harassment. Like I have gained even more respect for the people that compete in this sport, because I've had people that have like shared me DMs that they've gotten. It's just, oh my God! So that even more power to you guys for all the stuff that you go through. I mean, there's a lot of weird people on this planet. That's what my grandpa always used to say, and after being on this planet for 25 years, I can agree with him on that. But it's just so great that you guys have still been able to still compete in this sport. Because for me, like if I was a female bodybuilder, I would have turned my phone off and not done social media after about a month, because I'd be like, oh my God, like,
Take it personally. I mean, we get a lot of really nice comments too, and really, I mean, I would say the majority is very positive. Absolutely. And very supportive. I mean, you get the few ones. It's just kind of like, thank you, delete, block, thank you, delete, block. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of easy to get rid of people on social media.
It's not worth engaging, I mean,
so I'm kind of like, I'm like a positive vibe, and I'm like, if people are vibing with me and they're positive, I'm kind of like, yo, you're on my page. Like, if you want to come in here with negative comments, this is my house. I don't want negativity here. This is for motivation and inspiration, positive vibes. So, butt out. Like, if I just block people because I don't need the negativity, That's not how I live my life, Like
when I got my first hateful comment, my first hater.
That's how you knew. That's how you know that you made it.
That's right. You've arrived.
Yeah, that's a
If
good one.
you're
That's a
eliciting
good
that type of attention, then you're doing something right.
Yep.
You know?
That's
Yeah.
why when I was in college and the first time that a guy ever said, "Are you on steroids?" and I wasn't, I was like, "Oh my God, I've made it." Like people think when every time someone thinks that you're on drugs and you're not, you're like, "Yes, I've done it. Finally, I've achieved what I was looking for." So, yeah.
I'm looking muscular.
Yeah, it's like I finally done it. But yeah, so the last question that I ask is, if we were to talk a year from today, now again, if we were to have talked a year ago today, and both of you would have predicted a global pandemic and everything that's gone down, I would have called you liars and spent my entire life savings betting against you. So it goes to show you how much I know. And who knows when we talk a year from today? There could be a fire in the background. You could hear gunshots in the background. Who knows where the world's going to be at a year from today? But for each of you, I mean, if we were to talk a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at in just your overall lives? What are some goals that you would like to have achieved?
I would like to win the Rising Phoenix World Championships and the Olympia next year. That is my ultimate goals. Um, and I'd like to be happy, just live a happy life, and that's it.
Mine are similar. My goal is not to win the Rising Phoenix in Olympia. My goal is to get to the Rising Phoenix in Olympia. Um, you know, be on stage next to my friend here is just going to be one of the highlights of my life.
That would be awesome, being on the same stage.
Waiting for the day that arrives, and just continue progressing in the sport on all different types of levels, career-wise, bodybuilding, financially. My whole income model is based on bodybuilding. So, looking at moving, probably leaving Florida this year. Very good chance I might end up out here. Liking the groove and the vibe, and
she's gotten affected with the California.
Yep. My brother lived there for a year, but it was too expensive for him. So he lasted a year there, and then he's like, "Yeah, I got to come home. It's way too expensive out here." But yeah, he loved it there too. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Expensive, all right.
So that's all right. It's just money.
Well, and now lastly, we do the most important part. Why don't you guys give some shout outs? Who would you like to give a shout out to? Plug some sponsors so we can get some sponsors out there. What do you guys got?
You go first.
Sponsorships wise, that would probably be more. My big shout out, I guess, I already mentioned Wings of Strength, Jake Wood, the promoters that really have pushed women's bodybuilding, Tim Gardner Productions. So I'm actually in the market for sponsors, so that's my plug. And I'll let Helle go ahead and film here.
Yeah, big shout out to all the promoters out there that made it happen this year. Big shout out to Jake Wood, Wings of Strength, and the whole crew there. Also to my sponsors, I'm Built, Amino Alliance, Squeeze Me Skinny, Senfit app, Brilliant Bikinis. I just had to pull out my phone.
Squeeze Me Skinny sounds interesting. That's one of those names where you look at that and you're like, oh wow, that's an eye catching name. So whoever came up with that name, you did a great job.
Waist trainers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They don't work. Some say they work. I think it definitely helps me kind of pull my belly in because you get squeezed like a raisin. Just thanks to the people that are supporting women's bodybuilding. Also, like all the fans out there, getting on buying the pay-per-view this year, coming out to the shows. Like without you guys, we wouldn't be a sport. We wouldn't be here. We need you guys, fans, to support us and back up and wanting to see us. So thank you so much. Yep, really.
100%. Yeah. And we cannot thank both of you enough for coming on the podcast and, talking. I mean, I finally, accomplished all the goals. So all the fans that said, bring Helle on, finally did it. And, it's just so great catching up with you too, Gina. And I mean, just sharing both of your stories. And again, I'll leave a link to all their stuff down below. Everyone go and give them a follow on Instagram, buyer beware. You will be inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies and get in shape. But, again, we cannot thank both of you enough for coming on, and we wish you nothing but the best. And I look forward to next year having both of you on. We either separately or together, I don't care, and we'll just, give us an update. And, Helle, I wish you the best of luck in the Olympia, and Gina, I think you're going to do great as well. But again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.